This recording is dedicated to the memory of my friend Jon Titchenal, who passed away June 27th, my co-author for the book Haunted Indianapolis, which we wrote many, many years ago, and also other little books. He wrote the introduction to this novel, as well as my UFO book, Midwest UFOs and Beyond. He wrote this back in 2003 for me because I asked him to. Foreword. In the Gathering Dark by Jon Titchenal. Listen. Rain patters on old cobblestones. Music comes from another room, muffled and ghost-like. Black water taps at the wooden hulls of heavy boats. A raven takes wing from the steeple of a church. Children hear the rustle of black wings in their sleep. Mist creeps out of the river onto the quiet, deserted streets. It makes no sound. No sound at all. In these streets, in these silences, something may arise. Something nearby, perhaps one street away, perhaps two. The purposeful, regular sound of footfalls on the cobbles. Listen. The city sleeps. It dreams. We define ourselves through time. Our lives are based upon it. We accept it as a universal and inscrutable constant of the universe. Neither maleficent nor beneficent, but merely there. Why, then, can time speed up during periods of intense joy and slow near to a full stop during times of sadness, boredom, or discomfort? We make it seem that way, of course, comes the reply. But wait. Time, as we know it, is merely a product of our need to define change. The tree and the rock do not need time. Neither, at least, probably not, does the badger or the dog. We are the ones who need time. We created it. Why, then, does time seem so often to work against us? This provokes unpleasant questions about human nature, free will, and what sort of deity or deities might lie in the strata of consciousness above ours. Think about it. Aldous Huxley, one of the most free-thinking men of the late 19th century, was inspired to write a pamphlet concerning some of the suspicions he had about time. It was entitled, What is the Fourth Dimension? Huxley proposed that time was a human illusion and that all events were inextricably linked, that these events occurred in such a way, forming such lines of fate and coincidence, that they were destined to meet somehow, in some way, a convergence. For instance, something strange happens. A century later, a similar event takes place. Then again 50 years later, then 25, then 12 and a half. An invisible curve rising through the centuries, wrote Alan Moore. And he was right. In 1738, a man dubbed the Monster was caught attacking women in London. I'll leave you to guess what area it happened in. In 1888, there was the Whitechapel murders. In 1938, there was the Halifax slasher. In case you were curious, it was later discovered that all of the victims of the Halifax slasher had actually slashed themselves in a fit of mania. Think about that one for a while. In 1963, Ian Brady and Myra Hindley carried out the Moors murders, which instigated almost the exact same kind of panic as the Whitechapel killings of so long ago. Then, 12.5 years later, Peter Sutcliffe, who became known as the Yorkshire Ripper for his hammer and knife attacks upon prostitutes, claimed to hear a supernatural voice address him by name and instruct him to kill prostitutes. This happened while he was working as a grave digger. And so on. Believe me, dear reader, when I tell you that if you choose to go looking into these killings and the others described above, you will come away with a distinct feeling that something odd is going on. There are names, streets, things, and ideas that seem to weirdly match each other as they spiral down through the years, as if they were echoes of something, some primal idea. Monster. As children, we learn the word very early on, and it almost always scares us. Then we grow up and we pretend not to be bothered anymore. But we are. We just hide it well. A voice whispering in your ear between one moment and the next. A face half seen in the midst of a crowded room, and then gone. A rustle of spectral wings, a breeze, and something sails out into the hot night, and you forget about it, except when you awake, shivering and alone, it is there. The crowded room, the brightly lit party. It takes on the aspect of a T.S. Eliot poem, full of strange and troubling undercurrents. In the rooms the women come and go. A voice in an empty parlor. Monster. From somewhere across the city a raven calls. The old dark dread begins to creep back into our minds. This is nothing we can pinpoint, nothing we can prove. It is just below the surface, like the echo of footsteps which seem to match our own. We stop, and the echo is gone, and we tell ourselves that it was never there to begin with. Then comes a thick, syrupy chuckle full of blood. The city sleeps, it dreams. Sometimes it gives birth to nightmares. The candle is burning low, dear readers, and my time with you is almost done. The shadows have grown long, and the moon has slipped behind the clouds. The window rustles the dead leaves and sends them spiraling over the cobblestones. The candle goes out there, in the watches of the night. Something terrible is happening. Listen. You can hear it. Jon Titchenal, 8/10/2003.